Moderator, unless somebody wants to volunteer. Phil, do you want to be the moderator? No? Okay. No. Phil, though, is very generous. He's helped out with this event. Phil is a realtor in the up country of South Carolina, upstate. And things are so crazy right now. You don't even want to be a buyer right now because you have to compete against like 4 other people to buy a home. It's a definite seller's market. So although the money's good, it can be frustrating, at the same time. So that's why he was late today. He was out showing homes. Am I missing anybody? Did I tell anybody here you're going to be on the panel and you're... Now, I did ask Joan Brown, but she's opted not to be on the panel because she wants to sit in the crowd and ask a tough question. Now, John Perna out there, I did offer him a panel spot, but I think he's trying to sell a book. So once he gets out here, we'll add him to the panel. Ah, you heard me. Yeah. I didn't know you could talk and listen at the same time. And well, I'm going to grab a chair because I'm not going to stand up the whole time. And let's just set a time limit. We didn't do a time limit with the last one, but we're going to hard stop at 4:30 because we got the dinner starting at 6. We have music, so it'll be nice and fun. So I want everybody to be relaxed, and if you need to change clothes, go change clothes. Okay, we got 2 mics. Here's another mic. Okay, you turn it on that way and then turn it off. Just so you know. You know how to turn it on and off? Okay, you know how? Okay. We combined the panels just because we have to. And we had a couple people that couldn't make it, and so I thought, if we just combine them into one, we'll make it happen. So all of you are proud to say you're an Americanist and proud to say you're a Bircher. And I think that's very brave in itself, isn't it? I wear around these shirts. You may have seen me wearing this while doing Zoom calls and stuff. But I have a T-shirt that says "Secret Member of the John Birch Society." It's from a bumper sticker that was used decades ago. But I made shirts that said that because I think a lot of people in the John Birch Society remain secret members. They don't tell anybody, and then word never gets around about us. And then, of course, the other side, too, they say we're a secret society and secret membership and all that stuff. And you know what? There's nothing secret about the John Birch Society. If we are doing God's work, we don't have to remain secret on what we're doing because we're sharing truth, right? The dark side has to hide what they're actually doing, and they have to do it through, their deceptive, dishonorable agenda, So it's just, so our way of doing it, yeah, we meet at people's homes. Those aren't secrets. I mean, I don't want Joan Brown to tell everybody where our meeting is because I don't want Antifa showing up or, Black Lives Matter showing up. So those are, it's important to only give your address out to certain people when you're hosting a meeting. Same thing with a restaurant. If it's, you may not want to make it public that you're doing a specific event at the restaurant. You may want to just let people know that, are on your side, that you're doing it. And I know today, we may be preaching to the choir today. I know everybody here is probably on the side that we're on. But this is how iron sharpens iron. And we all go in certain areas of society during the course of the months, in the years. And we talk to people who are different colors than us, different backgrounds than us. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans, some are, they're much different. They may not agree with Americanism. And that's what we have to do is teach people what it means to be an Americanist. And so first question for everybody is, when did you join the John Birch Society, and what did you have to think about? What made you join? And then when did you actually start telling people you were a member of the John Birch Society? We'll start with John. And it's 2 minutes each.
2 minutes each.
Yeah.
My story is a lot longer than 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes flat.
2 minutes.
Okay. I testified in a trial that sent 3 communists to prison for 6 years. And I decided I would like to stay alive. And one of the other people who might have testified in that trial was a guy by the name of Mark Yonts. They found his body while the trial was still going on, along with the body of his wife, who was 9 months pregnant at that time, burned alive in their own automobile. I saw the photographs of their bodies. They were burned so badly that you could see the unborn baby. I decided I wanted to stay alive. And so I moved from Columbia, South Carolina to Charleston, South Carolina. And that's when I saw this billboard that said, support your local police and keep them independent. Join the John Bircher Society. And I thought, might be a good idea. Everybody's been telling me I sound like a John Bircher for the last 4 years anyway. So it's about time maybe I find out what these people have to say. And so I searched and searched very diligently until I found a John Bircher. I looked in the phone book. I didn't have a clue that American Opinion Bookstore meant John Bircher Society. But finally, somebody with the American Legion, I think, told me, you need to go down there to that place down there. And it's the American Opinion Bookstore. The John Birchers run it. Okay, so I called the number that they gave me, which was E. Carew Rice Jr., the son of the famous artist, E. Carew Rice Sr. And I spent 2 hours talking to him on the phone and was very sorry that I had to wait until Tuesday to go to my first John Bircher Society meeting. And I got there, when I did go to that meeting, I got there about an hour early. And I was very apologetic about talking to, because I'd heard all kinds of stuff. I didn't know what the John Bircher Society really was. I thought, well, I've heard all this stuff, but I got to maybe see if there's a way I can deal with these people. And I said, there are some things that are where you're playing right into the hands of the communists. If you promote racism and anti-Semitism, that's the way they build their communist revolution. And my host said, you never met a John Bircher before and you already know that? And I said, you mean that's what the John Bircher Society has to say? And she said, of course. So anyway, it didn't take long to sign me up, and that was 52 years ago. And I still remember it like it was tomorrow, like it was yesterday. But anyway, I guess my time is up. So
your time's up.
Okay.
Joe, you go next.
I started out, I belonged to the Tea Party and then the 9/12 Project where I met Joan Brown. And those groups were good, but they didn't do anything. And so Joan discovered the John Birch Society, and she went and met with our our area leader at the time, and she asked me to come to a meeting. So I came to the meeting. And when I was growing up, the John Birch Society in the press was condemned. They were extremists, radicals, whatever you want to call them. And so I had a bad opinion of it. But I said I was open to learning. So I went, and what I heard at the meeting was great. I New American, the bulletin, read those thoroughly, read the website, and everything I saw on there was what I believed in. So the first chance I could get, I joined, and that's over 6 years ago. And been going to Joan's chapter meetings religiously, and I've tell anyone from the day one when I joined, I belong to the John Birch Society because I have nothing to hide about it. I think it's a great organization. They do activism, and the education is unparalleled. And then the New American magazine is better than any newspaper you can buy in the United States to be informed on what's going on. And I highly recommend anyone to join the John Birch Society because it's worth your time and effort to do it. And if we're going to save our country, this is a good place to start.
I moved to South Carolina in November 2012, and I went to the Kershaw County Library in Camden, I guess it was February 2013, to a presentation that that a young couple was giving on Americanism and stuff, and I ran into a guy by the name of Tom Webb, and he started talking to me and mentioned the John Birch Society. I had seen billboards about the John Birch Society, but I really didn't know anything about it. And so I got to start talking to him, and he convinced me to go to a meeting. And I went to a meeting, and I started seeing that these people have a clue on what's really behind all this stuff. I watched the evening news. I was in the military for 20 years, and I thought I had a pretty good grasp on what was going on, that it was a struggle between Democrats and Republicans. And after going to several meetings, I realized that really wasn't what was going on, that there was something else behind it and all. And so I became a member of the John Birch Society, and have been till today, and I will be till the day I die.
My name is Zoe Warren, and I'm a John Bircher. I guess is that how I should say it?
I just say Bircher.
I'm a Bircher.
That's what I say, yeah.
And I love the John Birch Society. I actually was courted by Evan for a few years before I actually came across the finish line there and joined them. I didn't know much about the John Birch Society, but I thought it meant like I'd need to do secret handshakes and wear
We haven't taught you those yet. You'll learn those later.
The next level. I didn't want to have to call him Grand Potentate, so I was like, I'm not gonna, not interested in joining and being forced to go to meetings.
We'll invite you into the inner circle one day.
So, in any case, I was slow to acquiesce, but I was always watching his Facebook feed. I was always watching his social media to find out, I guess essentially who was fighting against him. And I could tell by the people that were fighting him, oftentimes they were Republicans. And so I would watch what the things they said too. And generally speaking, there were some good people that would fight against Evan for just speaking things that were true. And so I realized that, he's like me. He was getting a lot of heat. So I started defending him on some social media posts and stuff. And so he started sending me some material because, I'm absorbing some of the attack on him, and he'd send me material like the Anarchy USA video and other materials with Robert Welch. And I was really taken by their presentation, especially it was almost a prophetic utterance from the founder of the John Birch Society. He was telling us what was coming, and he was 100% on. And then G. Edward Griffin's presentation as well. I mean, these are like from the 50s and 60s and 70s, and I'm like, wow. And then I watched Larry McDonald's presentation, and I was completely sold. And so I'm here because through God's providential hand, Evan Mulch and I ran into each other at a Stop the Penny Tax protest, I think it was, or something like that, or something. They were doing something with roads,
something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but God had His hand in it. I know it, and so I'm thankful that you guys have allowed me to enter into your fellowship, and I enjoy being a John Birch Society member.
Hi, I'm Jay Kilmartin, and for the life of me, I don't know. I'm trying to think of when I first met Evan, but I don't think it's by chance that most of the people that were supporting Ron Paul, as I was, all ended up being Birchers. It's almost it's the same people. So I was kind of pulled in by that, and then I don't know, Evan. It's been about 6 or 7 years, maybe 8. I have no concept of time anymore.
You've been there as long as I have, so
yeah. So you had Arthur Hampton come and meet with me at the restaurant, and I thought it was real secretive, and then I find out. Exactly. I don't know the handshake either. We'll make one up for the new guys. Yeah. So it's been a while. Yeah, I underestimate probably about 8 years. But
I think it was Arthur's Ron Paul bumper sticker on his car that sort of lured you into the John Birch Society. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
So anyway, we had a lot in common, and I knew I was with family once I started talking to all my Bircher friends. So thanks for.
Yeah. What surprised me one day is Jay. Within just weeks of becoming a member, I don't advertise it when somebody becomes a member unless they want me to. A lot of people that are members, you'll never know they're members because there's a lot of people out there who don't want it known. They're waiting till it's time for them to say, or they may never even have the intentions of being publicly a member. They don't have the ability to do without fear, and with the ability to be able to defend the John Birch Society as well, because you do have to know the history. But Jay just starts doing it right away. I'm a John Birch Society member. I'm a Bircher, like in public places. I'm like, Jay, you can get some tough questions when you start telling people that. And I didn't know if he was, ready for those questions at that time. But anyways, Jay's just done a great job, and he's always supported me. Every time I've asked Jay for support, he's supported me. Even we went through tough times last year with the whole COVID thing. As you all know, the restaurant business thing was crazy last year. I mean, it was nuts. And we even had a radio show we were working on. We were getting ready to launch a radio show, and we knew it wasn't going to make any money. It was going to be a loss of money every month, to do a radio show. And when the whole COVID thing happened, we just had to put our brakes on that. But maybe we'll get started with something in the future. We've got Zoe on our team now, so Zoe's bringing us a lot of expertise in the areas of video and sound and all that stuff. So anyways, okay, so what would you tell if a young person came up to you and said they want to be a field coordinator for the John Birch Society? What would you tell that person who desires to be a field coordinator? And just for those of you who don't know, a field coordinator is, I'm a regional director now. I manage field coordinators at this time. But a field coordinator is somebody who works full-time for the John Birch Society, which means people go, oh, you're lucky. You get paid to talk about this stuff all the time. And even if you want to turn it off, you can't. A week-long vacation, you normally can't turn it off either because people are still calling you, and it's hard to turn off your phone and not get to people. So anyways, what would your advice be to somebody desiring to be a field coordinator? And start with you, John.
Oh, am I going to tell the same story I just told? Should I tell it, Leah? Sure. Okay.
Pick up your mic, John.
Leah being one of the first female coordinators in the whole country, and now there's another one, she tells me, I'm reminded of a story which I just told Leah, and now she's going to hear it twice. Actually, she heard it 3 times because I had to tell it to Sharon too. At camp, John Birch Society Summer Youth Camp, one year, there was one of the female counselors who asked, why are there no female coordinators? And Steve Thomas explained to her that coordinators had to travel through remote areas all hours of the night and go through all different types of neighborhoods and meet with people at motels and all this sort of things. And it wasn't something we wanted to subject a lady to doing. And all of the tough stuff. Of course, Leah explained to me how much different it is for her, and I said it doesn't require a great deal of upper body strength to do this, and she understood that. But anyway, after all of the explanations we had at that time, this female counselor camper wasn't yet satisfied, so I added some information to it. I said, if you've been to camp earlier, you may have remembered one of the camps when we were graced with the presence of Mary Helm, who was the first female legislator for the state of Oklahoma. And she is a member of the John Birch Society and was on the John Birch Society Speakers Bureau and attended many camps, speaking at the camp. And she had an adversary in the Oklahoma State Legislature who would address the Senate of the Oklahoma, and he would get up and say, "Gentlemen of the Senate," and Mary. And so one time, Mary came up to the podium and she said, "Gentlemen of the Senate," and Ed. Anyway,
I don't know if that's the advice I'd give to a future field coordinator, but
well,
so sum that up in 30 seconds. If you're to
actually, we don't tell anybody how little the coordinators make. Okay, coordinators know this. All right, a lot of people who are coordinators are independently wealthy, retired, and not in need of an income for one reason or another, because they're already they've made all the money. Of course, that puts their age bracket into the point where they're going to be retiring pretty soon anyway. And then eventually, on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who I actually have been interviewed for a job as a coordinator several different times. Never did wind up taking it. Did work with one of the coordinators as a kind of a volunteer coordinator for many different periods of time, but you don't do it because you want to make money, okay? That's the first thing you need to know. Coordinator is not a way to make money. It is a way to fulfill your life's desires, if your life's desires are appropriate for anybody who has an understanding of the way things are today. And whether or not you are willing to become a coordinator, you can still pursue all of this without a pay. And I can tell you this, the little money that the coordinator gets is not enough, in my own personal opinion, to change over from the one who is not accountable to the one who is accountable. Once they give you $1, then you're accountable and you've got metrics you've got to meet. And they're going to compare you to see how well you've done in this area and that area. And the volunteer members don't have to deal with that. Now, you can do as good a job as a coordinator does if you want to, but nobody's going to chastise you if you didn't. But if you are a coordinator, they're going to expect some measurable results that are not going to be the kind of things that volunteer members have to deal with. Okay?
Thank you, John. Go with you, Joe. What advice would you have for a future field coordinator?
Well, first, you have to have a strong family network because you're never home. And have to be understanding because it's like a life's calling. It's not just a job. And also, you would have to love to read on various subjects and become an expert on them because, like Evan said earlier, he gets text and calls and you have to be able to answer questions that people have, and so you're like the go-to guy or woman. So it's a difficult job, and I have the utmost respect for them because in this day and age, it's really easy to walk away from something like that. Like John says, they don't get paid a hell of a lot, but it's the mission. It's like I said, a calling, and I'm thankful for guys like Evan and other people that have served in that position because without them, the JBS would have just blown away. And, I'm happy that Evan's moving up the chain. And if he can convince his wife to move to Wisconsin, he'll be really a big shot someday.
That's not going to happen. She's not a Packers fan either, so that's not going to. Anyways.
That's all I know.
Okay.
Never having been a field coordinator, I don't know really what it requires, but I've met several. Evan, his predecessor, and a couple of others at some of our meetings. And if you're not totally dedicated to doing it, and as you said, if you don't feel that it's a calling, then it's probably not something that you want to try to do. But if you're dedicated to it and you want to be able to look your grandchildren in the eye, if we lose this fight, you don't want your grandchildren looking at you and go, Grandpa, why didn't you try to do something? So you've really got to feel the need to get out there and do it.
Speaking of fight, did I tell you that Evan got into a lot of fights on social media? If someone was going to be a field coordinator for the John Birch Society, I think they're going to be in for a fight. And it won't just be fighting enemies. You'll be fighting frenemies. Because, some of them are really honestly wrong.
Yeah.
They're good people that are trying with the wrong ideas. A wise man once said, if you're going to do something, then you better make sure you're doing the right thing, if you want to do something that's going to actually be effective. Because there are lots of people, if you're going to change something, a lot of people are going to try to get in and put something in that's not the right thing. And so you got to make sure you're putting in the right things. And so a lot of these people don't have the right things, and I'll give you an example. Like, I have a friend who is a strong proponent of Convention of States Project. And he is a beautiful man. He's got a great family. He's a wonderful human being. And he's really fully dedicated. He's a faithful guy. Like, if I could just get him turned 10 degrees to the right, bam, it would be amazing, right? Article 6 would happen. But because that's his main focus. That is his only focus. And so, but he honestly believes it, and so if you're going to be a field coordinator for the John Birch Society, you're going to deal with people who are honestly wrong, and they're committed and faithful people that are trying to save the Republic with something that may sink it, or it's going to be a waste of time. And so prepare yourself for the fight, and know that it's not like, everybody's the devil, because they're not all the devil. They're just, just wrong. So, yeah.
So my answer is really, really easy and really short. First, I would look him or her in the eye and say, "You are freaking crazy. You're a glutton for punishment." And then I would follow that up with, "What can I do to help you?" It would take a special kind of person, and I'd be honored for that person to tell me they want to do that, and look for advice from me. That might be a bad call. So that's it.
Thank you. And next question. Let's say somebody just joins the John Birch Society today, and they're making it a goal to recruit 7 new members to the John Birch Society so they can form a official organized chapter. What's the number one or number two? How about the number one and number two educational tools you would use to recruit other people to the John Birch Society? And John, go ahead.
You actually already mentioned it, Evan. I am a secret member of the John Birch Society. He mentioned it, a T-shirt. I have it as a bumper sticker. And if it's a really big secret, you put one on the front and on the back. I used to have a bookmobile. I think you've heard about that already. I had in the back window, it said my handle, Birchleaf CB19. And on the front of the hood, it said, "Join the John Birch Society." And I would see people who would just wave me down on the highway and want to talk to me. And, the people are out there. It's just that, they get together something and they say, well, we're going to call it the Conservative Club, and they don't know we exist if you don't ever use the name John Birch Society. I at one time, I had my home phone number in the phone book under local chapters of the John Birch Society. I didn't say the John Birch Society, local chapters of the John Birch Society. But I got phone calls from all the way across the country from people who thought they found the national headquarters. I would give them the number of the national headquarters, but usually we wound up talking for hours on the phone anyway. But the people are out there. If you want to meet, that was one of the things I used to get introduced at camp for being the guy who recruited 78 people in 1 year. And that wasn't hard to do, really. It was just a matter of letting people know that the John Birch Society is here, and you don't have to even show them very much. Nowadays, it's even easier. We used to spend all day long addressing envelopes, sticking labels on envelopes and putting them in the mail and buying stamps and all this sort of thing. Now, I send out more emails before you've had breakfast than I used to send out on a whole weekend in the snail mail. because I've got a tremendous big mailing list. And you can build a circle of friends. You can find out who's interested, and of course you can delete anybody who indicates that they're not interested, and so you don't waste your time with them anymore. A lot of you people got an email from me about this meeting. Okay, and I've got the email list grouped in various different categories, and also based on what area they might be in. So I know if I want to promote a meeting that's happening in Columbia, South Carolina, I don't need to send to the people who live in Australia or California or any of those people. I might send to the whole state of South Carolina even, but that's a stretch for somebody who's in Greenville to come all the way down here. Is that a stretch, Evan? No, maybe not.
From Greenville? No.
Yeah, Greenville, not. No. But anyway, it all has to do with outreach. If you are 1% successful, then do 100 times as much as what it takes to achieve the goal that you expect to do. Because if you're 1% successful and you reach out to 100 different people, then you're going to get one. All right, and it's just a matter of numbers. And we're so automated today with the high-tech systems of communication. Of course, they're trying to censor us. They're kicking us off of YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all those things over and over and over. But they cannot stop at this particular time. They haven't figured out how to stop one-on-one communication that doesn't go through their social media.
So John's advice is to buy a Birchmobile. So for the new member, buy a Birchmobile. Go ahead, ma'am. Yeah.
Are you using MailChimp as your medium to get the groups?
No, I don't use that because of the fact that also has some control over you, and they make you sign this little pledge that you know each and every one of those people really well or something or other like that. They don't want you to be a spammer to use MailChimp. Okay. All right. Now, if I get a piece of email from somebody, and I know the person who sent me the email, but he copied 5 other people, and maybe I don't know all those 5 other people. If I click reply to all on that email, then one person who knows me and 5 other people who don't know me are all going to get that message. Now, the 5 people who don't know me are probably not going to be upset with it because they were already interested because of the friend that I do know. But the thing that happens, you got to be very careful about that. The thing that can happen is you can get labeled as a spammer if you're sending mail to a whole lot of people unsolicited. Now, if anybody says, and you always put at the bottom of every message, if you don't want to get this anymore, just click reply to it and put remove or unsubscribe in the subject line. And so you give people the opportunity to get out if they don't want to talk to you. Give people the opportunity to very easily get out. That way you don't run the risk of being labeled as a spammer. And of course, if you didn't know the person really well the first time you sent them an email and they replied to you, then you go back and forth and you become good friends, and you know that they're not going to call you a spammer.
Okay, Joe's turn. Thank you, John. The question is, what would be the 2 top educational tools you would tell a new member to use to recruit people in their community?
What I'm doing, I'll give you what I'm doing from example. I found the subject, the school system, as a common cause amongst people that didn't belong to any group, and I was able to recruit them because the cause was the school system. Now, what I'm doing with these folks now, they're activists, and they're becoming not afraid of sending emails to their elected officials that they call them, they have meetings and they sit down with them. So I'm turning them into activists. And then I slip in little John Birch emails, the can emails. I send them, I copy it from the website. I send it from me saying, audit the Federal Reserve. And I say, if you so choose to send this email, here's an example of the email. And people do that. And they send it to Scott and Graham and whoever else. Nancy Mace is our congressman. Anyway, so they're becoming activists for the John Birch Society without knowing that they are working with the John Birch Society. And then as time goes on, as they get more familiarized with being an activist, then I could say, here's the New American, read this, because this subject in the New American about the cancel culture, which they're all concerned about. Here's an article, they read that magazine and say, what's the New American? I haven't heard of it. And then they get familiarized with that. And then I build on it. I think if what I've seen with Jones Group and everything, there's so many subjects that John Birch is attacking that people get overwhelmed. And I think if you peace feed them, you more successful. And I don't want to scare them away right away. And then, of course, the John Birch Society, unfortunately, through the media, has a bad name. So I'm making them Birchers, but not using the term Birchers. But then as time goes on, then I will explain to them what we do. And, the bulletin, hopefully join the society and become full-fledged Birchers on themselves, and then started a chapter in their neighborhood and around Dorchester County, and hopefully grow that way. But that's what I've been finding success with so far.
So now I know your secret.
Oh, the secret's out there.
I know I was being roped in. I'm sorry.
You don't know the secret handshake.
I don't.
As someone who's trying to grow their chapter, I'm the chapter leader there in Camden. Two things seem to work rather well. One is the Constitution is a solution. I've shown that a few times. The other thing is, in talking with people, find out what their hot button issue is, okay? Whether it's education, whether it's Agenda 21, the New World Order. Find out what they're really interested in knowing something about, and then guide them to the John Birch website where they can, and show them where they can find specific information on that hot button topic for them. Let them know that there's videos on YouTube, especially if you're talking to young people. They love to get on YouTube. Okay, so but you have to know where they can find it. They're not going to spend an hour scrolling through YouTube trying to find what they want. You've got to be able to show them where they can find it right then, and that will start the conversation. And that's been my approach lately on it, and it seems to be we're getting more and more people interested in our chapter, which is really funny. A little bit of history on the Camden chapter. A guy who is married to the most liberal member or former member of the South Carolina House. His father was actually a previous chapter leader there in Camden. So it's funny the way things work out. And at least that's the way that I approach everything. The YouTube and the Constitution is a solution.
Thank you, Jim.
Outstanding. You took one of my resources there. So
You're not allowed to say 2A for today. That'd be bias.
Evan Mulch's social media.
Direct everybody to my Facebook page.
One of the best educational resources is the Constitution is the solution. Absolutely. And also Anarchy USA. That has been a really good tool to let people know that it's just the same thing happening over and over again, And anything by G. Edward Griffin. And a good bridge for my own son was that, like, any movie that has been a derivative of The Creature from the Jekyll Island, there's several of them out there. And they're entertaining, they're exciting, and then afterwards you can talk to them about who wrote it, and and bridge them on over.
John, do you have one of those original copies of The Creature of Jekyll Island?
I've got it
Yeah.
saved on my computer, and I have it on my BitChute channel.
Yeah.
You're talking about the book.
The original book copy.
The one that was published by Apple.
Published by the John Birch Society.
I have one left, that is actually when G. Edward Griffin wrote Creature from Jekyll Island, he had an arrangement with the John Birch Society. He was on the staff of the John Birch Society at that time. And he made an arrangement that it was the way they would divide up the proceeds from the sale. It was the first edition, which of course a lot of these books that we publish, one edition is it. That is all. It's over after the first edition. So the John Birch Society didn't have the continuation of rights after the first edition, and then now I think it's in the 28th printing now, or something like that. But I do have one copy of the one that says Appleton, Wisconsin on it.
$1,000. Zoe offered $1,000.
But I tell you what, you can photograph the cop. Evan did this. You would like for me to have a showing of that issue, and everybody can come by and make a picture of that image of the back cover where it shows that it was originally published by the John Birch Society. I'd be happy to let. In fact, I will make a copy of it and email it to you if you like.
Thank you, John.
Tell our guests what that's about.
Creature from Jekyll Island?
Tell our guests.
Oh, yes. Okay. The Creature from Jekyll Island is the Federal Reserve. It's called the Creature from Jekyll Island because they were formed at a meeting on Jekyll Island, which is an island off the coast of Georgia. And these bankers and legislators and members of what today we have new terminologies, we call it the deep state. And the leftists have terms for the same group of people, by the way. You know, when they talk about industrial military complex, they're talking about the same gang. They traveled in secret. They didn't even tell their closest friends and sometimes not even their family where they were going. They pretended they were going duck hunting or something like that. And they got these very expensive railroad cars that some of them millionaires. They owned the railroads. So they traveled down there to Jekyll Island, and they had this meeting. And since that time, the John Birch Society has had a leadership conference down there in the same room, and the room that the Federal Reserve was founded in has a plaque on the door. I'm told. I haven't been down there and saw it myself. It said that in this room the Federal Reserve was created. Okay.
Yeah. So we could talk a lot more about that, but the Federal Reserve is as federal as Federal Express. It's a private bank. It's not owned by Americans. Like I was taught when I was in college, it's not federal, although it's called Federal Reserve. Jay, go ahead.
Can you repeat?
What two educational tools would you recommend people use to like recruit others? If somebody's wanting to start a chapter in their area, Jay runs businesses. He doesn't have time to build chapters, but he does tell people about the John Birch Society.
My answer is different than most. I would say let's go to lunch. So I would be a resource. Hang out with me and my friends and see what we do. I think it's got to be relational before you throw a YouTube video at them or the Federalist Papers. Read this. It takes coercion, and focused coercion.
Right.
To get people, I get a lot of my liberal friends going, you're conservative, but you're different. I'm like, no, I'm not. You should see the people I hang out with. They're much better people than I am. People need to be introduced to that us as people first and see our ideas in action in our places of business. So that's it. After that, after they're bought in, I would direct them to spoon feed them, like you said. PragerU, watch that short video. If you're like me, I have a very short attention span. Then move up to the Creature from Jekyll Island. one of the biggest mistakes I made as a new conservative was reading Ayn Rand, what's her famous book?
Atlas Shrugged. Yeah.
Yeah, Atlas Shrugged, and then it ended up being one of the blessings because I wasn't there yet. Like, oh, this libertarian stuff is crazy, and now I'm there. It took me a long time to get there, but I wouldn't throw that book at anyone. But I come to a meeting, talk to people, sit down with them. If you see a new member, handle them with kid gloves and invite them in. There's so much information out there on our side. It's easy to throw a video and just spoon feed.
What did you just say? Because everybody else knew it. I didn't understand.
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
Who?
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand.
It's a top.
The world on his shoulders,
Atlas Shrugged.
he shrugged, meaning that the producers of the world withdrew from society and decided to trade with one another in gold coins and all that sort of thing.
I forgot about this one as well.
Go ahead.
It's called The American Dream.
Oh,
Yeah, it's called American Dream, and it's in like an animated version. It's an animated version, almost completely animated version of the Creature from Jekyll Island. It's just about the Federal Reserve, but of course at the end of it there's a cell for like a movement, but it's still, the animation itself is great.
really? I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's it called?
It's called The American Dream. But if you look up Federal Reserve and the IRS Federal Reserve and the IRS American Dream, if you type that into YouTube, then it'll take you right to it. Federal Reserve and the IRS American Dream.
Evan, can I just insert a real
Yeah, we're going to open it up to questions. Yeah.
Go ahead. Ayn Rand. So if you wanted to show someone what socialism is like in practice, her book Anthem, A-N-T-H-E-M, Anthem, but there's an animated graphic where each episode is about 10 episodes, each one 7 minutes, so it's real easy for people to watch.
Let me say something. In all of these things that we're doing, there's a concept that everybody should be aware of. The Lord gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth. In order to know what the right thing to give to somebody and how to approach that person is, you've got to listen to them. You've got to find out what they're interested in and also what their intellectual level is, what their attention span is. You can't flood them with information that is completely outside of their area of interest or over their head in any particular area. You've got to find out what's right for them. It's almost like a marriage or dating or something or other like that. You select. It's like hiring somebody for a job. You don't hire a dentist to fix your brakes, and that kind of thing.
What's your record for recruitment for 1 year, John? Like what's the most you've ever recruited?
They introduce me every year. It's been so long now that it's kind of worn off. But they used to introduce me every year at speeches in camp as the guy who recruited 78 people in 1 year. Now, I had a coordinator one time who said, "Well, where are they now?" Okay, and it's true there was a lot of attrition, but one of them was Andy DeLynn, who's on the National Council now. One of them was Gary Hardy, who went on to become a coordinator. 2 of them were on the cover of the New American because they were fighting the federal regulators. They had a coal company in Kentucky called Hardly Able Coal Company, and a few others like that.
Let's move on to audience questions. Do you have any questions for the panelists?
John said that you can't use Facebook anymore, or you tried and it didn't
No,
work.
you can use it, but every time I post on Facebook, there will be a fact checker come up that will tell me all about how this and that is partially true and this is not true and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you how you know when something is true on the internet. Facebook censors it, YouTube deletes it, Google hides it, the government denies it, and if all of those qualifications are met, it's probably very accurate.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that, because I was always telling Joan, I said, I think that Facebook is a missed opportunity, especially in Charleston. I saw Evan had something on there one time, but especially in this time when people are so distressed about Biden and the Democrats and what they're doing. I think if you put things on Facebook, that would attract a lot of people. It doesn't have to necessarily say John Birch Society, but just make some comments as John Q. Citizen about what's going on.
But they make no bones about censoring on certain keywords. There are things like if you want to try to put something on the internet about vote fraud or about denial of the COVID hoax or anything like that, it will never get through at all.
So,
and if you keep on trying, they'll delete your account.
Okay, because we have a friend named John Steinberger. I think he moved to Tennessee, and he makes comments all the time as just an ordinary citizen. And a lot of people pick up on that. I know I listen to him, and I just think that it's just such a what's the word? An organization that a lot of people get onto, and it's a way of spreading the word.
The guy who runs Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Michael Lindell calls him Mike Zuckerberg.
I know, but I think you can use that.
I think she's making a good point. I think Facebook for me has been one of the reasons why I've excelled as a field coordinator, is because I get on and comment and post, and I've never been kicked off before. Yeah, and I think they want to control us through Facebook. I mean, that's their ultimate goal. I mean, it's they want us to control our thoughts, to control what we believe. But I'm rock solid in what I believe, and I'm always probably bothering the Facebook leaders, probably because I'm just posting the truth as much as I can, even if it only gets a few likes or a few looks. It's a little bit of truth, or a lot of truth, and in a small way, just goes the long distance sometimes. And as Zoe said earlier, and you can elaborate on this, Zoe was paying attention to me in what I was doing, because some people will follow you for years just to make sure you're rock solid, because we've all been misled by people, right? We've all felt that discouragement where somebody you feel like the right person to follow, and then over time you learn that person was not the right person to follow. And so Facebook does offer a way for people to publicly say what they believe, and then to get lots of looks, at the same time. But
y'all talk about relationships.
Yeah.
And so, like, if somebody was reading what you said on Facebook, and they said, "Well, I kind of go along with what Evan was saying. You don't even have to mention John Birch Society." Then after a while, you develop a relationship.
Yeah. There's certain ways Facebook gets us. We weren't able to create a Facebook ad for this event, just so everybody knows. So I hesitated giving Facebook any money, anyways. But we invited a lot of people here, and we certainly could have used a few more people here. So I thought about running Facebook ads, and I think Phil tried to run Facebook ads for us too. And Facebook just wouldn't allow us to advertise this event amongst people on that social media. So that's why the phone call thing and email thing works so much better. I'm going to let Zoe go, then you go. So, Zoe, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I get banned a lot. Right now, I can't even live stream because I'm kind of a provocateur and a pundit, and I talk about things they don't want to hear. And so it's true. You can use Facebook as a tool. I've grown a pretty good influence. There's a lot of people that are responding and paying attention and reposting stuff I put up. But sometimes it comes at a cost if you start relying on it to do that as well. So anyway.
So I was going to say something quick about Facebook. I've used it a lot in the past. I've been blocked on Facebook, but I still always I know we get censored, but I underestimate how many people see my posts sometimes. I don't know how prominent or how outspoken you are being a conservative, but it kind of disgusts me how many people come up to me in church and whisper, "Hey, I saw what you wrote on Facebook last night." No, I totally agree. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're like, maybe their wife doesn't even know that they agree with my political views. You're like, I'm looking around like, wow, this is crazy. So anyway, I always, sometimes I'll have a post that I get 2 likes and other times I'll get 80. And I'm like, oh, they must have blocked that one, but who knows? Who knows who really sees it? Is it that guy in church? Like, I like what you're saying.
Let me tack on the end of that, because it's just, I put up a post and my friend was like, I'll share it, but not on LinkedIn. It's the only platform I cannot totally promote conservative stuff, because it's the only platform I use for my profession. And so he deals with educators and stuff. So most of them are leftists. So I'll go on YouTube and like it, though.
All of that comes down to what you have available. I mean, if you're starving to death and there's a scrap of food, you eat that. You would rather have a steak, or you'd rather have a meal like we had today. But I mean, what do we got left, really? I mean, we're taking what's there. They're censoring us all over the place right now, and it's going to get worse. But, I mean, there's a reason. What's a glass of water worth? That depends on whether you're dying of thirst or drowning. And here we are.
Okay, I'm going to give y'all some information that you may not be aware of as far as Facebook is concerned. First and foremost, I've been using Facebook as a tool to empower people, and I've gotten a lot of people to comment back to me that they've been so indebted to what I've provided for information, because they were fearing, situations they couldn't control, and now they feel more comfortable about approaching these issues and so forth. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Do you realize that if you go to your Facebook page, I'm tech savvy, by the way, okay? I've been doing computers since 1972, and I got my son works for Hewlett Packard, and I'm just play down my technology skills. But I'm going to tell you a little secret that you can go and do it yourself. Go to your Facebook page. Go to where your little icon is for yourself. Hit the little box that allows you to find out the privacy and settings heading. In other words, you're going to go to privacy and settings. And once you're in there, you will go hit privacy, and then you can then see this thing called block on the left-hand side, blocking. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to be blocking those fact checkers. Okay. Now, how you're going to do that? They will have like a little search box. And in that little search box, you can start out by putting fact checker. Okay. Whatever you want to do in the first. It will then populate a whole bunch, and you're going to have to take each individual one and click it and say, you block it. And then you go to the next one and block it and go until you get them all gone. The first time I did that, I must have had 30 fact checkers. Okay. Then I went on, and I eliminated me being in Facebook jail that way. Okay. Then I started saying, hey, I got caught again somehow. I don't know what happened. So I wrote in hidden, HIDDEN, and then I saw a lot more fact checkers under the heading of hidden. So I did all of them, taking them out. And then I found that you could have fact-checker, and then you'll get all those out. Once you do that, you can post without being blocked by these fact checkers. I just want to let you know that that is something you can do. It might take you about a maximum of 20 minutes to do it, but it'd be worth your time not to have to deal with being censored by Facebook if you want to.
Me being on the phone with you while I'm doing it in front of my computer.
You see it?
Okay. No,
okay. You want my phone number?
I've tried that. Yeah, I'll give you my card and give me yours. I have tried that. I've been on that same routine where you went down.
I'll walk you through it.
I didn't get them all. I know you said you got 30 the first time, and then you did hidden. Then you did, what was the other one?
Hidden was one. Fact checker, dash checker.
Dash checker with a dash in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, the thing about it is, unless you know every one of the little code keywords,
you got to play with it.
You got to play with it, but you already know that.
Yes.
We got to do it. I've got to have this as I go through it. You're in Westfield.
Yes,
I used to drive through Westfield. I used to work in Leyland.
Okay.
I used to drive through Westfield every day.
I know it's like where Leyland is. It's not labeled there anymore.
We're gonna wrap up here just because it's 4:30 and we've got our event at 6 o'clock. And I'm going to allow everybody to say something in conclusion. But I do want to ask, by show of hands, how many of you are going to go to lunch at the Melting Pot tomorrow? By a show of hands. That's after the event tomorrow. Just so Jay knows.
I've got one or two other people that are going to come just to that.
Okay, so it's just going to be like less than 10 of us. You'll be there too? Okay, so about 10 people. Okay. In conclusion, trying to think of a final question to ask. Where is your vote on where the next Americanist training, where should that be next? What is your vote?
Charleston.
Well, in Columbia?
How about Aiken?
How about Aiken?
Yes.
Well, the key is being able to draw people. Yeah.
Embassy.
We're at Linwood's Plantation.
Oh, and Linwood's Plantation, that would be fun.
I think. Yeah.
Second.
Well, it has to be in an area where we draw our members to, you know. Well, that's important. We need to be thinking ahead. We talk all about social media, and you know it does help. It certainly does. But you got to have a balance where you're doing these face-to-face meetings. And we took a big risk. The Speakers Bureau took a huge risk. And Charles is here. He's the director of it now. William Bryant's now the chairman of it. And so we wanted to do one in Columbia. We knew it was going to be tough to draw the people because of, you know, still there's the COVID stuff people are worried about. And, you know, it's not a worry to us, but it is to some people, and so it's still hard for people to go out and interact in group meetings like this. But really, this is what the deep state, if you want to call it that, it's what the deep state fears the most, is us getting together for face-to-face events like this and actually having a discussion. Now, all of you who are leaders here are going to get to know other leaders around the states, and some people are. Michael's here from Georgia. And so Leah's here from Colorado. You know, this is a way for us to connect, which is much better than social media. So I just want you all to keep that in mind as we do this. And I want to, yes, go ahead, Mia.
I'm sorry. I thought this might be important. What about the Republican club meetings? Can you make announcements about John Birch Society meetings?
Absolutely. Yeah, Republican club meetings.
That's a missed opportunity also.
Yeah, so Joan can tell you about Republican club meetings. I think one time she took our Birch stuff into. Are you in her Republican Women's Club? No, I think Joan one time took her Republican or her John Birch Society material into a Republican Women's meeting, and I think the ladies threw it all out one day, and or they did something outrageously.
I don't think they mind as long as they have advance notice. Like, do you mind if I make an announcement?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. You'll ask somebody up there? Okay. Is Mitchell up there? He's going to go tape Mitchell Shaw. He's going to do an interview with him. So that's where Zoe's heading.
Also, one more thing. I have recently become the third vice chair elected in the Republican Party, and I think it's really wise to get the ECs, the executive committeemen and presidents, trained in the Constitution as a Solution Workshop. So that's kind of my whole outreach is my area. So my encouragement is if you can find the only precinct leader who lives in your area, the Republican Party, just make friends with them, convince them to take the workshop.
Yeah. And if they have reservations, it's all free on our website, and they can actually watch the whole series on their own. Yeah, Joan. Yeah, go ahead, Joan.
There are two men in the room that I recruited to the 912 groups and then to the Republican Party. Tim Higgins is one, and Joe Calley is one. Joe Calley is now the executive committeeman to the state Republican Party. And that should be... So,
they must not know the truth, you know, at the stage
about Joe.
He's going to recruit everybody in the Birch Society.
Oh, yeah, good taste.
So I just wanted to say, you know, we think we're not doing a lot, but we are. And I recruited these guys to the Republican Party a long time ago.
Joan often calls me and she's like, what really am I getting done? Joan gets frustrated. You do. Because it's not easy being a chapter leader, but she's like, what good am I doing? What wins are we getting? And I see wins happening in her area. She used to write letters to the editor. It's been bought by the Columbia Journal. Opinion Shapers. And now they're blocking her. They won't let her write in her own local paper anymore. Yeah. So we just got to keep rolling with the punches. But then, with Joe.
Evan,
yeah.
You notice Joan only recruited men, no women?
I'm not going to make a comment on that. No, there were women she recruited. Believe me, it's just the men stuck around. The women, yeah. Joan's a great lady, and when I first got this job, I drove to Charleston, I think, every month, and she was my chapter leader in Charleston. She was actually getting things done. When you're a field coordinator, you have to report to headquarters to make sure, to let them know you're getting stuff done, and you can't get that stuff done without volunteers doing work. And so when Joan would hold these events and meetings, and I could report to headquarters and say, hey, I'm doing this and this and this. And I had no idea what I was doing really, because I had hardly been in the John Birch Society a couple years before I took the field coordinator job. But Joan and I learned together how to run a chapter meeting, how to get people to show up for speaking events, which was new to us. Like, I didn't know Speakers Bureau. I didn't know what a bureau was. I knew there was Farm Bureau, but I didn't know what a Speakers Bureau was, right? And really what we're doing here, and you all are part of this, is we're bringing back Americanism. When I supported Ron Paul in 2011, I wonder, I'm like, the communities have already, the sense of community kind of dried up. Yeah, we get together for football games and, cheer for our favorite, teams and stuff. But it seemed like something was really wrong in America back in 2011. And I know for some of you it was long before that. But, I kept reading the John Birch Society books. What the heck happened? This is horrible. If you learn about all the things the government does to, with stop us from being healthy, they intentionally make us unhealthy through government school systems and other things. So they're intentionally like depopulating the human population. And for me at the time in 2010, I was like, what? Or 2011, I was like, how could people just be letting this happen? And you try to wake people up, and you just realize all the time, not enough people are waking up on time, but then the whole COVID thing hit last year, which was a complete, it was a disaster. It was a pandemic. We know that now. It was a plan. The Birch Society educated people about this. This was a true pandemic, right? If you read our stuff, you'd actually learn too the stuff you could take to beat, COVID if you got it.
Look around. Do you notice nobody has on a mask?
Yeah. This is great, isn't it?
If you see a mask, that's a hotel employee.
But oh wow! And for your county, yeah. So yeah. Oh. Well, our leaders have to take over parties, take over organizations. You have to be part of other organizations, not just the John Birch Society. But our ideas need to be the leading ideas of every organization. So what we're doing. And I know you said we conservatives. I want that to change amongst us to where it's we Americanists instead of. And that's what Robert Welch wanted, the founder of the John Birch Society. I hear a lot of people say they're Republican. Well, yeah, you can be part of the Republican Party, but are you an Americanist? That's what matters to me. Do you actually believe in what the Declaration of Independence says? I tell people I'm not a constitutionalist. I'm not going to tell people I'm a constitutionalist. I'm going to tell people I'm an Americanist. I'll obey the Constitution the rest of my life as an American citizen. Yeah, but the Constitution right now has the 16th Amendment and 17th Amendment. Both are communist planks. I'll still obey what's in that Constitution, but that doesn't mean I agree with the 16th and 17th Amendments. Okay, but if you really want people to understand, and I'm so proud of Zoe Warren. If you go to his LinkedIn page, by the way, Zoe is being he used to get a lot of video work. Ever since he became one of us, he's lost a lot of his video work because now people know where he sides on. But he actually posted on his LinkedIn account that he's a son of God and he's an Americanist. And I think we could recruit a lot more people, especially minorities, if we don't approach them and say, "Hey, come join the Republican Party," or come join this, this politician or statesman. A lot of times you can't tell if somebody's going to be a politician or statesman initially. They prove it to you after they get elected. But we've got to. I think there's more recruiting possibilities if you're recruiting people to be Americanists, which is what we do with the Overview of America film, with the Constitution as a Solution. And yes, they may run for a Republican once we train them. They may even run to be a Democrat. I mean, Congressman Larry McDonald, he was a Democrat. They try to get rid of him out of the Democrat Party. So we've got to keep training people and train the youth, and that's what we do. I know so many of you are doing it right now, and we'll just end on that note. I do. There's a cool story that John tells me, and you may not know, but he had the world's monopoly on the book None Dare Call It a Conspiracy. And if there's one story we could end with, I'd like to end on that story because the book None Dare Call It a Conspiracy was our #1 book back in the 1970s. And the important part about this story is John had the most valuable book to Americans at that time, to patriotic Americans. And he had it in boxes. And the John Birch Society called him one day and said, "We don't have any more left. We're desperate for books." John could have probably sold them back at 10 times of what they were worth each, or what he paid for them. John sells them to the John Birch Society at the same price he paid for them.
I drop shipped them to their customers.
So you even shipped them for them. Yeah. So I think that's important to note is, John's heart was always in this. And I know that goes for a lot of you, but John did not become a Bircher to make a profit. The John Birch Society desperately needed new copies of None Dare Call It a Conspiracy. It was recruiting a ton of people to the John Birch Society. And so tell them that story if you would.
I didn't actually know that I had the world's monopoly on that book. It came up. I was talking, was it Belmont? It might have been Belmont at that time, or maybe Appleton. But the subject of None Dare Call It Conspiracy came up, and I said, "Yeah, I have some." And I think it was Sally Huck. And she said, "How many have you got?" And I said, "Well, I'm probably down to about 150 cases now." And she said, 150 cases? You have 150 cases of None Dare Call It Conspiracy? I said, "Yeah. They're stacked up in my living room from floor to ceiling." And so anyway, she said, "Well, we got this and we got that and all that." And there's another interesting story. Ollie North came and spoke in a motel in Sumter, South Carolina. And I went to his speech and I handed him a copy of None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And I said, "Colonel North, I would like for you to read this book." He said, "None Dare Call It Conspiracy. I bet I got more copies than you do." And I said, "I got 150 cases. How many of you got?" But everybody was giving him the book, you see, so he thought he had a lot. But he was talking to the guy who had 150 cases. Oh, well, I didn't even know I had boxes that had been hit by a forklift, and had a punch in the middle of them, and some of them weren't damaged. You could pull them out one at a time, and they weren't damaged. They got pushed out of the way.
Okay, so we will be in a different room for this evening's dinner, and there will be music and all that. So please take a 1-hour break and come back at 6, and we'll get started, and then we'll do awards. Then Mitchell Shaw will speak, and then Leah will be the final speaker. So see you all in a little bit.
You know what room it is?
I don't know which room it is. I just know it's that way. It's the Calhoun room? That makes sense to me. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's the record.
There was a Bircher who ran.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, you start walking away and then you turn around.
One more question.
What if your daddy's rainbow That's right. Yeah.
John, good to see you again. I saw you in Greenville last
As soon as I find out what my
You know, I did not even know you felt Robert. I didn't even know who you were at that time.
But, you know, I've known who you are for a long time. When I joined CBS back in 1997, I was in New York, and I was part of Ed Cummings' channel.
Right, and I remember emailing you when you were in New York.
But I'm from Columbia,
I
originally.
think I just found, you were from Columbia
Born and
originally.
raised.
I just found out from Evan that you now live in.
Right.
See, I Evan told me you were here, and I still got an email in my inbox, which was going back into old dates, you know, and you made an inquiry about the t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I haven't done anything. I don't know if it's
You mean Camp Constitution?
well, I have a Camp Constitution.
I got some t-shirts.
Down Bircher,
Right, yeah.
but and of course, I'm not going to New Hampshire. Okay?
Yeah, Hal sent me. See, I've known Hal for a long time, but you know, he was close to geographically where I was before. He came to all of these. But I was not a happy camper about jumping the camp program. I'm glad Hal took it and went with it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. You know, really, I mean, the Van Smith and all that.
That's about the time I came in.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, they got whatever way they divided the job, whatever they got, they had the kids. Okay, John Birch University or something like that.
Robert Welch.
Robert Welch University, right? But you see, they didn't have anybody to raise money for scholarships or to get campers or to get speakers or anything like that. They didn't have anything like that. So there was no way they could do it. They supposed to, but they didn't have those ways of
Remember when you were
and nobody put it back together on our side.
But Hal just kept it going on his side.
So what do you want to finish? They're going to have the meal in here.
Did you hear that?
The meal's going to be in here.
Let's do it. So we're going to do the whole meeting.
Well, the sign said salute at Calhoun. That's set up for a meeting. I asked the gentleman with the food. He said the meal's going to be in here. So.
Well, I'd be okay not moving the room to this morning. Is that okay with you?
It's okay with me, but I don't know what.
Why not have it
Because
here?
we get as many people as we are open. It's not going to be 60 people. I think we're going to be like 40 to 50. Okay. Yeah. Like in Greenville, like a ton of people came for the dinner, and I just don't see it happening here. Like, what happened?
Well, we probably should let somebody know.
Let's talk to him real quick. How about that? Because then I don't have to tear everything down.
I think I'll do that.
There's no use.
So that's why I don't want to cancel anybody that might not be a fact checker, you know what I mean? So, but if you do get
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another activity, huh? So this is really not happening from above. They really have see, this is it. We'll do it to ourselves, right? We don't need to above us. We have our fellow beings. Hey, my dad didn't speak after me once. He told me don't do it. He called me and what is there to say? I told you not to do it.
It'll be one of the best, I think.
Well, thank you for your
Society,
information.
may or may not use it, but we've got it.
So what do we help do?
Well, let me work on this,
Okay.
and I'll figure out what I need to move. So it's going to take some thinking. This sign needs moved. That sign needs moved. So just pick something.
Evan, what time do you want me? Do I need my computer or just my thumb drive?
You can use your computer. I'm basically going to use my computer, so if it's just a PowerPoint, just through your thumb drive, put it on there, do it that way.
Okay.
We're setting up in this room, give you about 20 minutes. You take as long as you want.
Okay.
Okay.
But if I'm there 15, 20 minutes before, we're good?
That's fine, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, those brownies are amazing, Linda. They are amazing. I don't want to take them home, so
Take them back home?
take them back home, but we can use them in the morning.
Well, see, I'm not going to be here.
How about you take some before home? We'll figure it out. I gotta get some. Okay, so just leave the water here. I'll dump that out. But this needs. What is it? I don't want it to be. Just take it out of the ice because we got the water over there. So go ahead and dry this off.
I'm sorry, I'm hard to hear.
I'll get that stuff out of your way. Okay.
Were you in the militia there in Virginia? What happened there, I guess? The one who was in charge of the militia. I don't know what happened. Do you know those people? Do you still get, you still know those people? I don't know. Bill, boy, now it's time to be organized. I don't really want to. I thought maybe I thought somebody, Dean Ross told me he died. He died? That might be why I know. That might be the reason. Let's go first.
Well, what I've been told is we're going to eat. Yeah. I'm here to go over there.
Okay.
What's that? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. So,
That's
next time you can finish over this.
We could do it all in here.
I told him, he said he thought I was crazy.
That's
Because the FBI infiltrates these
for
military.
the filming. I would rather have it filmed. So I'm okay using the other room.
Organized loosely.
It is that if you're going to have your tenant one film for you, I could do that as well.
I don't know anything about it. Josh Kimball. Is that right? I haven't looked at it.
No.
I think it might be out of the contract. It might be. I don't like government. And I know in my area, we're organized, but it's not official. So they can't infiltrate, so we know.
Sure.
At least I know. We know who
Looks like they went.
I got plenty of weapons. No ammo anymore. You have to make it. You have to make it your own that, Bill.
I may need to move a table. Just
there's also a
Yeah, I see it. I'm gonna come back and pick it up.
this table used to make it more.
So I mean,
We're just gonna stay in this room. The same guy gets set up for everything to work out. The Sons of American Revolution.
you have that? So we can use that tonight. Take it.
I don't think so because we just use that.
Okay. So I'll move it. Move the band.
Yeah, move those back here.
So you want to just take one out and do three, and
Just
then
take this table out right here.
Okay.
And let me get something.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.